Closed session into open session. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see you all. We are at, yes. So, we do have a report out from closed session, student discipline and other confidential matters, Education Code, Section 35146, and Education Code 48915A1C. That is so funny. No, it's just the A1C, you know. The board took action on a motion by Trustee Zeta and seconded by Trustee Hirsch to approve the staff recommendation of student readmission from a stipulated expulsion of student number 25-026 by the following vote. Ayes were 5, noes were 0, absent 0, and abstain 0. So, Dr. Beatson, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And can I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we come to item 8, our highlight. Mr. Phillips, Director of Special Ed. Hello.
Good evening, Superintendent Calabrese, Board President Grobes, and trustees. I seem to be just a bit rusty at this. Welcome. It's good to see everybody. And I have the privilege of sharing tonight's highlight. We're focused on our RISE program, Reaching Independence Through Support and Education. So we'll specifically be spending just a little bit of time discussing that program. All right. So our RISE program is one of the options that we have within our district, within our continuum of special education services. The RISE program specifically is located at Robert Semple Elementary. We have 4 classrooms at that site supporting students from preschool through 5th grade. We meet a variety of different needs for our students in the RISE program. We have some really skilled staff to be able to meet those variety of needs. So we're meeting the needs of students with their social skills. We also support their functional skills. This is really important because when you think about we take for granted sometimes our ability to communicate and to communicate effectively. Our students as they come in have some real challenges in being able to get their needs met. So their ability to communicate effectively is key to their success. Also, we support them with their academic readiness skills. So we have students, again, coming in with preschool, so that may be play-based instruction as they build social skills, the ability to interact with each other, to share can be a real challenge, right? We also support students who are older, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade students. They would be using our unique learning systems program. That program specifically does give our students access to the content standards, essential standards at their grade level, so they're able to engage in that. Also, self-regulation and coping strategies, right? This is something that is a lifelong skill that many of us continue to work on, is really how do we regulate our emotions? How do we regulate our feelings? How do we address challenging situations? So these are opportunities for our students to get the support they need to develop those skills as well. So it's a very robust program, our RISE program, supported with our staff. And also hygiene management and our daily living skills, right? So it's that, are we using the Kleenex to blow our nose? Are we tying our shoes? Are we using our zippers? Are we able to open the milk, right? If we're gonna go ahead and take that drink of milk. So these are really crucial skills, and oftentimes we have a related service providers such as our occupational therapist or our speech and language therapist who also work within the classroom and collaborate on those skills to support our students. So what does all of that mean? All of that really means that by focusing on each of those areas, we're really cultivating the skills that our students need to access inclusion opportunities in our general education classes, which really is the ultimate goal. So we work with strength-based placements. We want to know what can our kids do now? How can we support them to continue to be successful? How can we collect data that supports their inclusion to a greater and greater extent over time? Oh yeah. And specifically at Robert Semple, and this is a highlight and a celebration in and of itself, Semple has developed a climate and a culture of inclusion that is really, really important to our student success. We've got general education, we witnessed it very recently as we did classroom walkthroughs and observations. We have many of our students from our RISE program who are pushing into their inclusion classrooms as part of that class, right? So they're supported. They have the opportunity to engage with their general education peers, and not just as guests in the room, but as part of the classroom because they bring value. So it's really great, the work that Principal Moore has done, her general education staff in collaborating with our teachers to really engage in those conversations to support the students has been invaluable. All right, and some other celebrations too. So we have had some upgrades to those classrooms very recently in terms of both the furniture that's been available for our students and also the technology that they have access to support them. Furniture in and of itself doesn't sound that exciting, but trust me, we were super excited about this. The beauty of it is it meets multiple needs for our students. Safety. So these are items that are difficult to tip over. Sensory needs. There's also the ability to sit in chairs in many different ways, as I've learned myself. Have them facing forward, have them face backward, be able to slide them around a little bit. All of that really helps to meet student sensory needs. Also, there's modular furniture. So we have the ability to move and reconfigure the classrooms on the fly, on the spot. We have kids who have carpet time, and then we need to be able to move those into more of a typical looking classroom. And actually, if you know, see the very first page I'd shared with teacher Spencer Harley, if you walked in this classroom at first blush, your assumption might be, oh yeah, typical general education classroom. And again, we've got older students who are accessing furniture and accessing the curriculum in a very similar way to what we'd see in a general education classroom. All right. So how do we pay for this? Well, fortunately, the work that we do pays back into itself to a large extent. So our Medi-Cal funding system allows for our related service providers to provide assessment, to also provide service to our students, and then to bill back based on that. So we're able to actually collect funds back on the services we're providing and use that money then to potentially fund right back to our students. So we had the opportunity to do that in this case. And I talked about the furniture, but what I really didn't focus on is we also have, well, those of us who've been doing this for long enough would call them smart boards. These are Promethean boards. And what I really like about them, you can take a bat to them and it won't do any damage. Right? A forever lasting item. But the truth is they're really pretty special. They give our students the opportunity to actually do hands-on interactions with these boards. So as opposed to something very static, they can engage, move things around, be interactive with it, and it's really invaluable, again, to the group of students who have the needs our students have to be able to build those basic skills. So that's been super. And those are in each classroom. They're portable in case we move classrooms, and they also can be adjusted up and down so our students who may be in a wheelchair, or who may be more smaller in size, have the ability to access these devices irregardless. Okay. All right. Oh, and one last thing that's really important too is that with these new smart board systems, it's integrated with our unique learning system curriculum. So it is directly related to it. So these aren't side activities that students are doing. These are actually part of the core instruction, and that's how they're doing some of their most important learning is through these Promethean boards. Okay. And I'd be really remiss if I wasn't celebrating the amazing, amazing team members we have. And what's really neat about this picture is it was a really hectic day and they're still smiling. I mean, enough said, right? But honestly, they do fantastic work. So this is teachers, it's paraprofessionals, our psychologists, our OT. I didn't quite get our speech path on here, but know that our speech pathologist is an amazing part of this group too. These are passionate, caring folks. They count small successes. Doesn't have to be the biggest win, but it's a win every day. They advocate for our kids, celebrate our kids, and they collaborate with general education teachers to get inclusion opportunities. They're gold. So we're very fortunate that they're part of our team. Thank you for your time. You betcha. Hey, all right.
And we have Briseida Sanchez and Frida Silva Cortez here from Liberty High. Would you like to go? Would you like to report out?
Good evening, President Groves, Superintendent Calabrese, and fellow trustees and cabinet members. Last week, we acknowledged Suicide Prevention Week. We learned about it's okay not to be okay. We shared how we can support our friends and how, and we had a contest in our advisory class to see who could wear the most teal and purple. Mr. Pound's advisory won. Sadly, that was not my class. This week, we recognized the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month. We have several activities planned, including learning about Hispanically owned businesses in Benicia. For insight, it would be highlighting Elvaritas, Carnitas, and catering. Not only are they a pro-dominant, well-established business in town, the owner, Nina, is a Liberty High School alumni.
Oh, wow.
We have been sharing our spark with our students and have identified their interest. We had created a gallery walk showing off our sparks, and we invited others to comment. We have students interested in law, graphic design, NLB, umpiring, prenatal, ultrasound technicians, and more. LHS students are on the move. Several students went to San Pablo Valley Park to practice our skills for the upcoming forestry challenge. Ms. Dakane brought a few students to Solano Community College in Fairfield. Next week we will be going to their auto program. Also next week we are going on a bike ride through Golden Gate Park.
Next Wednesday, September 24th at 9 a.m., we will be hosting pastries with the principal. We are inviting all parents and guardians to attend. If any of the board members would like to attend, please let us know. At the last meeting, concern regarding the affordability of Drolite Stadium was discussed. Me, having grown up playing soccer in this community, I've witnessed injury after injury in fields around Benicia. Many of our fields have not been properly maintained, and our athletes that our athletes need to thrive. Injuries can be discouraging and even career-ending. Lowering the booking fees for a local sports team would provide a safer environment for our Benicia athletes that they need to thrive in. Also, lastly, we would like to welcome our new superintendent, Mr. Calabrese. Welcome to the Benicia Unified School District. We're excited to have you join our community and look forward to getting to know you. We hope you'll join our assemblies, field trips, and all the special events that make Liberty High special. On behalf of Liberty High School, thank you.
Well done. And then we have Isa Renteria and Carolyn Pilot. Did I say it right? Pilot, okay.
Good evening, President Grubbs, fellow trustees, and cabinet members. In the past 2 weeks, Benicia High School students received their first progress reports for quarter 1 on Friday the 12th. On the same day was the school's club fair, where more than 40 clubs set up tables in the quad and held sign-ups for their groups, like Hiking Club or Yelp Club. Earlier this month was also the auditions for the fall play and improv team. This past Sunday, leadership had a decoration building event for the upcoming homecoming dance. We were able to pretty much finish all of our handmade decorations for the dance, and we've also confirmed the last of our food trucks, so we're nearly set. This past Monday was the start of Hispanic Heritage Month, which runs until October 15th. This week, NHS had its first meeting on Tuesday the 16th. Today, first semester economics seniors joined Travis Credit Union in the gym to learn about building credit and making responsible financial decisions. Also today is the parent meeting for the improv team at 6:30 p.m. in the PAB. This Friday is the deadline to turn in the homecoming dance guest/bid forms at 4 p.m. After that, we have a football game at 7. The theme is camo or green. In the upcoming weeks, we have our homecoming float decoration day from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday the 21st. We have our homecoming spirit week starting next Monday. Monday is bubblegum day. Students will wear pink. Tuesday is Kit Kat day. Students will twin with their favorite person. Wednesday is 2000s day. Thursday is Jolly Ranchers, wear Western. And finally, Friday is Candy Salad, dress in class colors. That Friday, we have our rally and homecoming football game. The Saturday after that is our homecoming dance. And Tuesday, the 23rd, is the deadline for homecoming dance ticket sales at 4 p.m. after school. Wednesday, the 24th, we have a college application lab during access for seniors. On behalf of Benicia High School, thank you.
And then we come to our superintendent reports.
Yeah, day 2. I'm super excited about this. So this is a collection of pictures throughout the district of things that happened this week, and I just want to share out since our last board meeting. So as Georgina gets this set up here. So I realize now as our students presented here, that some of these things are going to be repetitive, but that's okay. I got pictures. So go ahead and go to the next slide there. Thank you. So club fair, so here's some pictures of that. So at Benicia High School, students have the opportunity to join clubs on campus, which is incredibly important, connects kids to one another and builds community. So just wanted to accent the great things that are going on there at Benicia High. Okay, this is incredibly impressive. 82-0 in their home opener, the Benicia High School High girls flag football team. So go Panthers, what a great job, right? I didn't put who the other team was. I just didn't want to embarrass them. So, but that's really impressive. What a great organization, right? You all know this as Venetians, but I'm just coming to know the Kyle Highland Foundation and holding its Suicide Prevention Awareness Walk on September 6th. And as you all know, they support us with counselors in our schools. And so just an incredible program, an incredible organization. Back to school nights. I had the pleasure of going to almost all the back to school nights with Janice, and so I just want to highlight a few. There's Liberty High School up on the left-hand side there, and Matthew Turner, and then Benicia Middle School. The turnout for our back to school nights was just incredible. There was standing room only at Benicia Middle School, and when I watched the gates open up at Matthew Turner and this flood of parents come in, I was just astounded by it. So what a great way for our parents to come out and get to see back to school night. Great presentations. And it was just amazing. Hispanic Heritage Month, just a reminder, from September 15th to October 15th, we honor Hispanic Heritage Month with it starting off because of 16 de Septiembre being September 16th, which is Mexican Independence Day. This is a thank you to everyone that's just welcomed me. I'm just overwhelmed. I'll start with the food. So our food services department made these amazing cupcakes, welcoming us at the last board meeting. Tanya we have a similar passion for food, and she made sure to have figs there because I'm a fig grower, and so she was incredibly sweet. The middle picture is my mom, and so 89 years old, and people were just so sweet to her at the last board meeting. I just want to thank everyone for talking to her and saying such nice things. And that right there, she's asking me, why do you want to be a superintendent? And then she proceeded to ask me, are you the boss of all these people? And I said, well, it's a team, Mom, it's a team. So anyways, I think she was ready to paddle me if not. So, and then this is Joe Henderson on their Instagram page. Someone sent this to me. They did a welcome Mr. Calabrese. I've never been so popular on Instagram before. So I just want to reach out and say thank you to everybody for the warm welcome in this wonderful community. A few things that are happening in the district this week I just wanted to accent. So at Robert Semple Elementary School, there's a cleanup day coming up September 20th from 10 to 1. And then at Matthew Turner, they are holding a picnic in the park Friday, September 19th from 6 to 8. So great activities. I can't say enough about this. I just want to bring this back. So a huge thank you to Valero for their continued support for what they're doing for this community. You know, this funds our STEM program for the next 2 years. STEAM. I knew I said that wrong. So I can't thank Leslie enough for all of her work with Paul on this. Just tremendous support. this slide just gets me. So what a beautiful thing for our police department to do to honor September 11th. I'm getting choked up here. They're honoring the men and women in law enforcement lost their lives, placing 72 flags in front of the police station. That's the 72 members of law enforcement that lost their lives on September 11th. And so I just think it's a beautiful thing and just speaks to this community so well. That concludes my superintendent's report, and this is what you can expect. Each board meeting is just a little snapshot of what we're doing out there in the district.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And now we come to board reports, and I would like to say welcome. Welcome, Mr. Calabrese. It is, we're so excited to have you here. I know it's your big second day, and, but we appreciate how much you've been around the last couple weeks. You've been touring schools and coming back over, so we appreciate you. We're happy to have you. And any other board reports?
So I wanted to give a couple of shout outs and activities that I've been doing the past couple weeks. So the Kyle Highland Foundation Walk, which you had highlighted, occurred, and Trustee Hirsch and I had the opportunity to go and walk with the foundation. So, and I just want to give a thanks to the foundation because they do such good work and they support our students at both the middle and the high schools. I went to a Robert Semple PTG meeting, and I want to give a huge shout out to that group. They're just fantastic, organized, supportive, and they're just really eager to support the students and staff at Robert Semple. So a big thank you to that group. Also want to give a shout out to Joe Henderson's PTG. That group led Start With Hello this week, and it was really nice. They had PTG volunteers all out in the morning drop-off with music, saying hello to families, having signs. We have received a lot of feedback and just from our community that they are very appreciative. In addition to welcoming families in the morning, they also had planned activities at the morning recess. So it was a really great community involvement, which is great. So shout out to the Joe Henderson PTG, thank you. And then last, I want to give a shout out for BMS Back to School Night, which I attended as a parent. And, just thank Principal Nelson, the teachers, and the staff for a fantastic effort on putting together a great evening. And I wanted to just share a personal story of a teacher that, was talking about her experience, and she shared that she's been in a few different districts as a teacher, and Benicia has been the best district that she's worked at. And it's a nice reminder to all of us that, we are here to support our students, and we're here to support our children. And so it was a good reminder for me, and just wanted to share that with all of you.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a few things. Like Trustee Manassi, I was at BMS Back to School Night as a parent and thought it came off very well. Mr. Nelson played music on a big boombox on your way in, so it was very lively, which is appropriate for the middle school. I also attended the Highland Foundation Walk with Trustee Manassi and Mrs. Martinez and her family. They were there too. It was a great event. I highly recommend it in the future. They do, if you're able to make it, they do a dove release, and it's very, very touching. And lastly, I attended Porch Fest this last weekend to see the BMS Drumline and Color Guard, and they were excellent. They kicked off the day at the Capitol building, and all three of our music directors were there. Mr. Hanna, though, he did an interpretive dance in front of the drumline as they played, and to raise money for the school. So, if you see him dancing, put some money in that bucket. It was great.
And we come to item number 10, comments from members of the public. So all functions of the board meeting, including public comments, will take place in person. Members of the public may address the board at a regular meeting on any item within the board's jurisdiction. Speaker cards are available on the entrance table. Please note the item you wish to speak to and submit a card to the board secretary. The board president will call all the open session general comments, government code, Section 54954.3 during the public comment item. Comments for items on the agenda will be called during the specific item. Comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker, or the board may limit the total time to 20 minutes per item with the timer displayed on the monitors. By law, no action can be taken on any item raised during the public comment periods, and matters may be referred to the staff for placement on a future agenda of the governing board. Please be reminded to keep your comments respectful, as students may be watching the board meeting. Thank you. And I do want you to know, sometimes it's very hard for us to not comment, but we may not. So our first speaker tonight is Kathleen Smith. Can you come to the podium?
So before I start, I just had a chance to look at your vision and mission, and I think it's important that you all are reminded that that's what you're following as I read what I read. So I hope that's true. I think I see strong character as one of the items, inclusive community. I just want to remind you of those things that you are declaring to the community. All right, I need my readers, I forgot. All right, good evening, members of the board and the superintendent. My name is Kathleen Smith. I'm speaking tonight not just as a concerned community member, but as a parent of a BHS student, a neighbor, and someone who believes leadership shapes the moral compass of our schools. After reaching out to both the superintendent and the board president, I received responses that pointed to policy and procedure. That's why I'm here to speak to you all tonight. Because when policy is used to avoid doing what's morally right, it becomes a shield for inaction, not a tool for leadership. You are not just individuals. You are an elected governing body entrusted with influence and responsibility. When one of your members publicly celebrates death, mocks suffering, and spreads hate, and nothing happens, it's not just his failure, it becomes yours. Silence is complicity, inaction is endorsement. Your own bylaws exist to protect this community from exactly this kind of behavior. This isn't just a policy violation, it's a moral crisis. And your response will show whether you stand for what's right or you allow hate to hide behind neutrality. Children are watching. Parents are watching. The community is watching. When you stay silent, you teach our children that cruelty is tolerable, that leadership is passive, that integrity is optional. But when you act with courage, you model the values we hope to instill in every classroom. Mr. Maselli's comments celebrating death, suggesting suffering is deserved, are incompatible with the oath he took as a trustee. If you believe in the standards you set, then ask him to resign. To stay silent is to say that you agree. To stay united in silence is to say you condone. This is your moment to lead, to show that that love is stronger than hate, that truth matters, that leadership is not about comfort, but about conviction. I urge each of you to ask yourselves, what action can I take today to prove that I am here for the best interest of those I serve? Let this be the moment you choose courage over convenience. To quote Charlie Kirk, the worst thing we could do right now is to be quiet, but silence isn't an option. When good people stop talking, bad ideas take root. When truth retreats, lies advance. Lead with integrity, lead with love, and lead with action. Thank you.
And our second speaker is Greg Smith, if you'd like to come to the podium.
Going to need my readers as well. Good evening, board and trustee Caprese. Welcome to your new gig. I'm Greg Smith. I'm a public servant and a BUSD parent. I'm here today to talk about accountability. I'm sure you're all well aware of the derogatory comments Trustee Maselli has made on social media. He has a long history of posting politically charged rhetoric. In the past, he's compared President Trump to Hitler. And yes, there are screenshots of this. This is a classic political hate speech. This sort of speech from either side has caused the wide division we have within our nation. Speech like this has motivated people to take horrific actions, like the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the Capitol Jewish Museum shootings, the shooting of Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, and yes, even a few recent school shootings were motivated from far-left political hate. To rationalize political assassinations because the victim's views different from your own is to abandon the very principles of our nation. Words have consequences. Trustee Maselli should not be exempt from consequences. Can you imagine the expedient response if the same speech was posted on social media by a student of BUSD? Moreover, as an elected representative of BUSD, Trustee Maselli should be held to a much higher standard. He has consistently demonstrated character flaws and radicalized political biases. With that said, I'm asking Trustee Maselli to be accountable and resign from the BUSD school board. Should he not resign, my ask of the board is to move towards removing Trustee Maselli for policy violations and conduct unbecoming someone elected to represent the children and teachers of the Benicia Unified School District. Inaction on the board's part will be considered an endorsement of Mr. Maselli's conduct, an endorsement that you will all have to shoulder individually. This is your moment to lead, and Benicia is watching. Thank you.
And we have one more speaker, but I cannot read, I can't make out the name. Kevin Altman, okay. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry.
It's all
Thank
right.
you.
I don't write very well. Mr. Calabrese, welcome to the community. For somebody that's been here 50 years of his life, graduated from Robert Semple Middle School and the high school, have kids that go here. They just spoke so eloquent. I didn't write anything down. Speaking about his behavior online, which is reprehensible. But one other thing, I don't know if you saw the post on his Facebook page. And at that point, posting something of a Nazi saying, let's go out and kill Nazis, with the number 2 on the helmet pointing to Second Amendment followers. That's people like me. That's people on the red. I know it doesn't go with all of you, but everybody has a right to speak in this country. Don't have to agree with it, but when you're directly threatening to kill people, and you're posting that on your Facebook page, it makes me not turn my back on him, nor my child that has to go to the school, and he has access to that school. I think this man should gracefully get up and resign right now or face the consequences. I'm retired. I have nothing better to do all day but to destroy his reputation in this town and make everybody understand this. And this is hard for me. I grew up with his brother-in-laws, very close friends with them, and his wife. And this is hard for me to have to do this. But I cannot send a child to school in this district who feels uncomfortable with people like that around, spreading that hate to these young people. Now, when she goes to the high school next year, she would like to start a Turning Point chapter. And with people like him around, I think he'll do everything he can to stop it. And I think at this point, if he's not willing to resign and you guys condone it, then you're just as guilty. He needs to go, period. These are our children, and I hate, sir, that you had to come here on your second day and have to deal with something like this, but it shouldn't be in any district. You're representing the children of our community, and you're representing the parents of this community, that you've got our students' interest and your best at heart, whether they're on the left, right, or don't have any political beliefs. But if you hate, a political opponent, or you don't like Christianity or Muslim or something like that, you don't have a reason to be here as a school board member. You need to go and leave it for other people who are willing to look after our children. And with that, that's all I have to say. And I hope you guys do the right decision and ask him to step down. Thank you.
Thank you, and we come to item 11, approval of the consent calendar. Excuse me. Background information on these items is provided to the board prior to the meeting. A common motion takes action without discussion on roll call votes unless discussion of items is requested by the board members. So, Mrs. Martinez.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar as written.
I'll second.
President Groves.
Yes.
Trustee Hirsch.
Yes.
Trustee Seda.
Yes.
Trustee Maselli.
Yes.
And Trustee Manasi.
Yes.
And approval of resolution 25-26-11, establishing appropriations limit pursuant to the GAN limit. Separate, we'll need a separate roll call vote.
President Groves.
Yes.
Trustee Hirsch.
Yes.
Trustee Seda.
Yes.
Trustee Maselli.
Yes.
And Trustee Manasi.
Yes.
And approval of resolution number 25-26-07, declaration of obsolete property for Joe Henderson Elementary.
President Groves.
Yes.
Trustee Hirsch.
Yes.
Trustee Seda.
Yes.
Trustee Maselli.
Yes.
And Trustee Manasi.
Yes.
And approval of resolution number 25-26-08, declaration of obsolete property for Benicia High.
President Groves.
Yes.
Trustee Hirsch.
Yes.
Trustee Seda.
Yes.
Trustee Maselli.
Yes.
And Trustee Manasi.
Yes.
Thank you. And we come to item number 12, and Mr. Giuliani, our city manager, is here to update us.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's good to be back. The last time I was here, I was behind the dais. And Chris, welcome. And I'm very excited to be here as the Benicia City Manager and Benicia High School graduate, class of '96. So joined with Amy Hirsch. She and I share that distinction of graduating in class of '96. And so I mention that because I think it speaks to the spirit of this community, that we can have a graduate of Benicia High School, at one point serve on the Benicia School Board, and now I have an opportunity to serve my community as city manager in a place that I grew up in, and now I have 2 children at Joe Henderson Elementary School, and celebrated the Hello Week, so the staff did an outstanding job there. So it's fun to be back here, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about the Parks, Landscape, and Lighting Assessment District. And so I want to provide a little bit of a preview and context for this body, because it is our hope that you'll take this item up at your October 2nd meeting to vote on it. And we'll talk in a moment why you would be voting on that in just a few moments. So behind me, you see the presentation, and these are signs that you've seen in all our parks. Why is it that we have signs that say 1989 in all our parks? Do you have a clicker? Right here. So let's go back to 1989 for a moment. In 1989, the price of gasoline was only 62 cents. The median household income in 1989 was $49,000. Today, it's $125,000. A home on Daffodil in 1989 sold for $204,000. Today, that house is valued at more than $800,000. In 1989, Benicia adopted a landscape and lighting district, and it covered about 25% of the properties in Benicia, including commercial and industrial in our industrial park, and only 20% of the homes in Benicia. And in 1989, the annual assessment for that district to support the parks in those neighborhoods was $136.56. In 2025, that annual assessment is $136.56. This is why we have signs in all of our parks that say parks funding frozen since 1989. I want you to think, as members of the Board of Trustees, as homeowners, try imagining operating this organization, taking care of any one of your schools or your home in 2025 with $1989. It's quite a challenge. So what are we doing about it? Well, what you see here is the current district. And what is shaded are the homes and properties that are currently in that district. And those are the folks that have been paying for 36 years. Everywhere else, shaded in white, is not within that district. And it's the landscape and lighting district, that fee is on your property tax bill. And it can only be used to support a park system, the maintenance of the medians and the streetlights. Can't buy fire engines, can't pay for police officers, can only support our park system. Our current system supports Park Solano, Jack London Park, Skillman Park, Gateway Park. So those are the 5 parks for which those dollars support. We have 28 parks in the city of Benicia, twice the national average per our population, by the way. So we knew that we have to get a community vision on what we're going to do to support our parks. And prior to COVID, this community spent years updating our parks master plan, over 492 pages, looking at our entire system, which not only includes our 28 parks, but all of our trails throughout Benicia, our open space in Benicia, envisioning what is it that we want to do moving forward to invest in our parks. That's really the first step, kind of casting that vision. Now we have to figure out, well, how are we going to meet that vision? How are we going to continue to take care of the assets we have and finding a way to make improvements to our parks, for which we have over $55 million in deferred maintenance. So, we have to come up with a solution. That solution is to correct a broken system that was put into place in 1989 of a parks, landscape, and lighting assessments district that has no escalator, you can't increase the cost, and only covers 20% of homeowners. So, what the city council is proposing is a citywide district where everybody pays and those funds can support our entire parks system. So, how will this impact us as property owners, and in this capacity, you as Board of Trustees? So I'm going to talk about the process in a moment, but I think it's really important to get down to the nitty-gritty, and let's talk about cost. The cost that is proposed, starting as a single-family home as kind of a benchmark, is $208. As you get further away from the park, and I will highlight, go back here for a second. So behind me, you see the chart, or the map of Benicia. That shaded in red is in Zone A. You're a half a mile from a park. If you're in color blue, for which there's only a handful of homeowners on Rose Drive and Cambridge, you are more than a half a mile from Channing Circle Park. And so you're in Zone B. Zone C is primarily the industrial park. And they are more than a mile away from a park, and they're also commercial. So that describes the different zones that this map is showing. Okay, so now let's go back and talk about cost. So as a benchmark, those in Zone A will pay $208 a year. If you're in Zone B, that's $124, so it's 60% of what Zone A pays. And then Zone C is $41. The school district, your annual assessment would be $17,000 because of all the property that you own. For comparison, the city of Benicia annual assessment would be $14,000. And the next highest parcel that would be assessed would be Club Pacifica at just under $5,000. Club Pacifica is the apartment complex off of Southampton. Okay. So those are the top 3 kind of property owners in Benicia when it comes to assessment. So to further, and this is really more for your background, so you can kind of see the breakdown. So this chart, and it highlights the cost per zone, and it's also important to know that the cost is set up by proximity to park and type of building. So commercial would pay one rate, a single-family residence pays a rate, an apartment would pay a certain rate, a condo a little bit less. Now, you may ask, Mario, why in the world did the city of Benicia concoct such a confusing and rather obscure way of assessing for parks? Well, ladies and gentlemen, the answer is Proposition 218. These are not City of Benicia rules. Proposition 218 went into effect by the voters of California in 1996. Same year Amy and I graduated, Benicia High School. The idea behind Proposition 218 was to empower voters to have a voice to pay for fees. Well, great. However, it set up a very strict guidelines on how those fees can be assessed. And so in Benicia's case, we can only assess fees based on proximity to park and kind of building type. So that is the reason why that fee structure is the way it is, okay? Because that comes up a lot as a question. So it's important to note that the way the ballot is counted is a little bit different than the way that you're elected. When you're elected, you go to the ballot in November. It's one vote, one ballot. We cast it in November. A Proposition 218 ballot is weighted based on what you pay. So for example, as a property owner, I have 208 votes. I submit that ballot, yes or no. It gets submitted to the city, and it's counted 208 votes. If you so choose to take this item up as property owners of the district, you have 17,000 votes, just as the city had 14,000 votes. It's weighted. So that's how that ballot process works. We have about 10,000 properties in the city of Benicia. The ballot period closes on October 14th. The city council will hold a special meeting. We will have a public hearing. At the close of that public hearing, no more ballots can be received. And on the 15th, we will, at City Hall, open those ballots in front of the public and count them. And we hope to have a result by the end of the day on the 15th. We're probably anticipating somewhere between 3,000 to 4,000 ballots received, okay? So that is the process for which the 218 covers. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the benefits. As I said earlier, the dollars raised from a Parks, Landscape, and Lighting Assessment District can only be used for parks. It can be used to maintain those fields that we heard about earlier that are in somewhat of disrepair. We have, in our 28 parks, 21 playgrounds. 19 of them are older than 20 years old. Why is that? Because the only dollars the city of Benicia has to replace playgrounds is impact fees. You only get impact fees when you build new buildings, be it commercial or residential. In over the past 18 years, we've only built 128 housing units and 4 commercial buildings. So it speaks to the challenge the city has, not just in the park system, but our entire system of funding services. So this is a way to have dedicated funding for our parks. It also will provide an opportunity to make investment for capital improvements. This will include replacement of playgrounds, replacement of trails, replacement of turf fields in our parks. So it's important to also talk about the budget. And as I noted earlier, this is a funding stream for parks. It is not the only funding stream for parks. So the city of Benicia contributes $2.7 million to support our parks. That comes from our property taxes, our sales taxes. The other revenue the city receives, that's the investment that goes into our parks. Should the district, the Parks and Landscape and Lighting District pass, it would generate $1.8 million. Now, we're only generating $422,000, $430,000 right now. Also the same amount of money we received in 1989, by the way. So it would increase it to the tune of 1.4. And so then the total parks budget would be just under $5 million. So that is the funding for our parks system. Here is just a list at the length of the $55 million of deferred maintenance in all of our parks and our trails. I want to conclude by noting the benefit to the school district, because certainly as homeowners, you all have a a certain opinion on the benefit of the parks and making that investment. But you're here as trustees making a decision to invest $17,000 of school district money for our parks. Why would you do that? Well, it's important to note that this system not only supports our park system, but it supports the medians and the lights surrounding all of our neighborhoods. And to think about making sure, in particular, that the quality as we lead up into schools is aesthetically pleasing and it's inviting. It's not full of weeds and in disrepair. Similarly, we have in almost all of the schools throughout Benicia parks that are adjacent to or across the street from our elementary schools. Places where students will go either before or after school. It's important that as a city, we have the dedicated funding to support those assets. Because I want you to envision yourself as not just schools, but as property owners of those sites. And think of those sites as your own house. What would it do to your property value, the sense of community, if those assets go into disrepair? And so that is my comment to you. Now, it's also important to note that in all this time that I have been speaking, I'm not advocating for you to take one position or another. I am merely asking you to take in that information, and should you feel compelled to take that action on October 2nd. And so at this point, happy to answer any questions from the board.
I have a couple questions, Mario. First, you mentioned the top three, the district, you mentioned the apartment complex, and you mentioned the city. Where does Valero come into all of that? They're
Valero-
a huge property.
They are a huge property. Note that they're also in Zone C because of their proximity to park. So their
Okay.
annual assessment is $1,700, just actually just under $1,800.
For all of that property?
Correct.
Okay. And then secondly, you're asking the city, you're not asking, but the city is asking us to vote on something to give more money to the city for the parks and lighting, okay? Where's a list of what is going to be done? Like, how do we know? We have, there's nothing budgeted for us to look at to see where that money is going to go the first year, the second year. You know what I'm saying? So I just like a little clarification.
Sure. So what I would suggest is to get kind of greater clarity as to the specifics, and you can go to, if you just Google Benicia Parks Master Plan, it pulls up that 492-page report. I'm sure what you're seeking is specifically what's going to happen in year 2027, because should this pass, it doesn't hit the rolls until August of 26. So we would even collect that additional $1.4 million until August of 27, okay? So we don't have a list of the projects that would happen in 27 or 28. That would occur in 2026 when the city council would review projects presented to it by the Public Works Department. But what you can assume is you're going to have a replacement schedule for playground equipment. And to give some context, for those familiar with Jack London Park and that playground, we're in the process of getting bids to replace that, a playground that is more than 20 years old. $550,000 to replace that playground. And this board is certainly familiar with installing artificial all-weather fields. To do one field at Community Park is $5 million. To have an all-weather soccer and softball field to extend the playing time for those teams, in particular for girls' sports. And in an entire community, we don't have a single dedicated soccer field in Benicia. This would allow at least the outfield of that to be permanently marked with soccer designations, and also allow for softball to continue into the fall and then spring seasons, because it wouldn't be closed down for maintenance or weather. So those are just some examples. Should it pass, you'll get the specific outline of the work that's done. And I can draw your attention, every single year we've had the existing district, the city council has to renew that every single year. And every year, there is a list of projects that is done. So for example, if you go to Jack London, you will see the resurface of the basketball courts. You'll see new fencing and a bleacher repair at Jack London. So that happens on an annual basis. So that's when you see the list of the specific projects that happen. What's key, I think, though, is when you see constantly broken irrigation lines and flooding in our fields, or fields that go brown because our irrigation lines have failed. Well, in large part because we have done a poor job of investing in that infrastructure. And so, again, just like we did with roads a year ago, you have a specific source of funding to take care of an asset. So too, this will be a specific source of funding for our parks.
So I want to say thank you for being here. It's really
Absolutely.
helpful for you to be here. And I also want to preface that, I'm really coming with my questions more focused as a trustee than I am a homeowner. So I just want to sort of preface that. So you had mentioned that the assessment for the district would be $17,000 a year. And I just want to follow up then about the annual percentage increase. You mentioned that a little bit, but I'd like to go a little bit further into that of what we could expect.
Sure. Great question. And I'm going to, if I may, I'm going to add to your question and also share and remind the board and members of the community that the city and school district have multiple partnerships and a variety of fronts. In fact, we're going to talk about one in a little bit tonight with regard to the middle school. We have a partnership with the community center. And we have other services the city provides, whether it's crossing guards or school resource officers. And so what you have seen in the history of the relationship is to ensure that both bodies are taking care of the needs of the community and making sure that those costs are fairly absorbed. And so I think that's important to note for this body as we look ahead on costs that this could incur and how we can go about looking at other services that the city and school district partner into the future. Specifically to your question about escalation, that's one of the problems that we're trying to fix. We highlighted earlier what happens when you don't have an escalator for 36 years and you're trying to do 2025 repairs on $1989. So the ballot before you allows for an increase based on consumer price index. Consumer price index is the kind of cost of inflation that happens in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so it limits the increase up to 4%. So let me kind of explain that. Doesn't mean the city council every year can raise it 4%. What it means is the city council can raise it up to the limit of CPI. So if inflation next year is 3%, the city council has to vote by a supermajority, 4/5 vote, to increase it up to 3%. They could do 0, they could do 1, they could do 3. They cannot do 4 because the CPI was only 3. Now let's have a hypothetical that inflation really goes up. And let's say it goes up 8%. Goes the city council for review. The city council can only raise it 4%. Okay, so that is the annual escalator. It's also important to know that this has to be renewed by the city council every single year. And in all my time with the city of Benicia, never have I seen a member of the public come up to the podium in the council chambers and ask that it not be renewed. I mention that because there is talk in the community of not having a sunset. And my answer to that is, well, the only reason you would put a sunset is if you envision in 10 or 15 years you don't have parks. If you think we're not going to have parks in 15 years, then absolutely it makes sense to have a sunset. Otherwise, you are spending an inordinate amount of taxpayer money to put forward another initiative to defund a funding source for our parks. Moreover, you have an annual review by the city council that has to renew it by a majority vote of the city council to renew it every single year. It's really two votes, so you would have for the cost of inflation, correct?
Another question. So if I understood correctly, none of the school sites will be, utilized isn't the right word, will not benefit from the assessment. This is really, you said medians, you said the parks, et cetera. And then if that's true, could the schools be eligible for any funding?
So yes, with the caveat of the Benicia Middle School for a period of possibly 1 year. So later tonight, we're talking about modifying and terminating a 99-year lease with the middle school, but the city will continue to maintain that site up until 2027 or when the improvements at that site are completed. So for a year, proceeds from the landscape and lighting district can be used to support the maintenance of the middle school. Now, I anticipate that only to happen a year because you'll have your project done or we'll complete it by June of 27. So I want to make that distinction. Other than that, no, these funds can't be used to support maintenance at the school. So for example, let's say in the future, the city of Benicia, with the caveat, let's assume in the future, the school district and the city say, you know what, we want you to maintain Robert Semple School. And we have a history of that. The city has in the past maintained the high school. We've maintained Robert Semple School. And so let's assume for a moment we decide that. What would happen is there's an annual review, and we have to do an engineer's report every single year. And so what would happen is the engineer's report would be updated. It would include Robert Semple School as part of that park system now. And in this case, it would be a moot point because everyone in that school district is next to Duncan Graham, so they're already paying Zone A. So there would be no cost difference for those residents. We would, however, be able to use funds received to support Robert Semple School. Now, I'm going to reverse that for a moment, and I just talked about the Benicia Middle School. The Benicia Middle School, those homes around the Benicia Middle School that are within half a mile are in Zone A. In 2027, when the city departs from the middle school, those will be rezoned to Zone B, and their assessment will actually go down.
Because currently the city is maintaining the BMS
Correct.
field, so it's counting that.
Correct. Okay.
I do have a question, particularly pertaining to BMS. So what does it mean? What does it mean when you say the city will maintain the fields? The field at BMS? Exactly.
We're segueing into your business item a little bit
Oh,
later
okay.
tonight.
I can ask later.
You can, but I think one of the issues is providing that clarity. And so in that MOU agreement, we talk about field prep for the baseball, softball season. We talk about weekly mowing. So that's in that MOU. So we're trying to be much more clear. We talk about vegetation management on the field, and that will be discussed in, I think,
So whether
two items later.
Whether this passes or doesn't pass, the city will still be responsible for maintaining the BMS field for a year or until construction starts.
Correct.
Okay, understood.
I have a question.
Okay.
I was looking at the property descriptions. So one of the things that I think I'm trying to wrap my head around is that the school district is a government entity. So I was looking at the property descriptions on, I'm not sure what slide it is, 21 maybe? And I don't see anything in there for, like a government, there's commercial, shopping center, industrial, parking lot, commercial, residential. We don't really fall in there. So I'm wondering how is our,
I believe both the city and school district are designated commercial, but I'll have to pull the engineer's report and get back to you. Certainly have that before October 2nd.
oh, no problem. But the engineer's report, that was actually another part of my question. I think you had mentioned that the engineer, where can we find the engineer's report, rather? Yes,
You
that.
can certainly find it on the city's website.
Okay.
So if you go, in fact, an easy place to do this, if you just Google Believe in Benicia, it will pull up a variety of things, and in there'll be a tab for parks funding. And there's all the information related to the Parks Landscape and Lighting District, including the engineer's report. Additionally, it'll be submitted to the superintendent as part of your packet for consideration on October 2nd. So you'll have that as part of your packet, and you can certainly pull it up on the city website on multiple places. But if you do Believe in Benicia, you'll probably get all the information related to the plaid. So I would direct you there.
Okay, thanks.
Any more questions? Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Giuliani.
And I will be here should you need me for the item and
Oh, for the-
2 items in the future.
Thanks.
Thank you. And we come to action items. We are coming to a public hearing, so I'm going to close us out from open session and go to the public hearing. And Dr. Beatson, you are up.
Thank you, President Grubbs. Good evening, everyone. This is a public hearing action item that I bring forth yearly to you. It is a Ed Code 60119, which requires me to let you know that we have an annual resolution that states that all students have the necessary materials that they need for instruction in their courses this year. And I'm happy to report that everything that we have ordered, we reach out to the sites, we find out what their needs are, has come in at this time. So that's what I can let you know.
Excellent. So I'm going to come back and close, oh, I'm sorry, were there any questions? No. Okay, I'm closing the public meeting.
For the record, there are no public comments.
There are no public, okay, thank you. And Mr. Calabrese, you're up for, did we approve it? Sorry. Thank you, Mark. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve Resolution 25-26-09.
I'll second. President Grubbs. Trustee Hirsch.
Yes.
Trustee Zeta.
Yes.
Trustee Maselli.
Yes.
And Trustee Manos.
Yes.
And action item 13B, consideration and approval of an MOU between the City of Benicia and Benicia Unified School District to terminate the Benicia Middle School ground lease agreement.
Yeah, if you've seen in your packet, this is, as Mark spoke to, or excuse me, Mario spoke to and Janice has in the past concerning this 99-year lease concerning Benicia Middle School. And so essentially this ends that agreement and gives that property back to us fully as far as maintaining it. And this is an action item for you to vote on. Since we do have Mr. Giuliani here, if you have any questions for anybody.
Any questions?
I do. I'm just getting my. All right. So I had a question about Section 6. Will the city pay for the removal or any costs affiliated with the removal of the towers?
Correct.
Okay.
So the city will make, should this be approved, and it was approved, by the way, by the city council on Tuesday night. The city will provide notice to the telecommunications of our kind of transfer of the conclusion of this lease, and the intent for the city and both the school district to terminate. Now, that said, there's not unilateral termination, so we have to wait for the cell towers to terminate and then remove the towers. Now, I will say they have been desperate to renegotiate the cost down, and we have declined it every single time. So I actually think that technology is such that those towers will probably be removed by the telecoms at their own desire because they're not profitable.
Do you have an estimate of when that would?
I would imagine it would be in one of the leases, I think, goes until close to 2040. It will not, I would be shocked if it lasts that long. I mean, we have telecommunication sites at city facilities, at our utility sites, our water holding tanks off of Essex Road is one in Park, and we're seeing them being removed, not renewed. So I would anticipate similarly at the middle school.
This is more of a question, I think, for us. I was just curious about if we can talk about at another time the timeline for construction at BMS Field. I know we had talked about we needed to start the softball fields at BHS, but I'd love to, and unless you know off the top of your head, just talk about can we get construction started at BMS earlier, if that's possible, if we have the funds, if that's something we can talk about.
We can definitely bring that back, absolutely.
That'd be great.
And it is all pivotal on the removal of the towers. Right.
Wait, for the BMS field?
The BMS field, right? That's part of it.
I think only part of, only the back field.
Yeah. Was there a reason why we chose June 2027 over June 2026? Mario?
A little background. Interestingly enough, it was because these discussions began with multiple superintendents ago now.
Right.
So Superintendent Wright. And there was a thought that it would be as soon as June of 2025. So when we first began those discussions, the term would end in 25, and then it got extended to December of 26, and now June of 27. So it was just to stay in line with kind of the project that would occur at Benicia Middle School. So that was why June of 27.
But if we want to start doing the work before that, then is that contract would terminate?
Yeah, so as it reads, whenever the project begins or June of 2027, whichever is sooner, then the city would
Okay,
would go out.
I did read that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, and to be clear, as the partnership, I mean, should we understand projects get delayed, we're certainly amenable to being flexible as well. Right.
Thank you. And then, then the other thing I just wanted to suggest for us is that we do have a list ready to provide the city in section 2. I did a walkthrough of the field at BMS, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So I'd really like to, make sure that we're ready for that, to provide that to them.
That might be a question for Mario as well.
You might as well just stay.
Sure, I'll stay here.
So my question would be the timeline. So we would like to provide a list of, the facilities to be taken care of. And so is there a timeline of when that would be taken care of?
I suppose that depends on the degree of the work that you'd like done. So one of the things, and it hasn't been asked, but it's since I'm up here, I want to provide some context. Why are we canceling this in the first place? So the lease itself was entered into in 1985, and it was meant because we didn't have Benicia Community Park at that time. And so the city actually made improvements into creating the softball fields that are there now. And so it was used as a city recreation facility. And as we have moved away from certain, in particular, adult softball programs, the use of the city's use of that by the city has dwindled and dwindled and dwindled until there's absolutely no city use there. Now there's community use, to be sure, but there's no city use on there. The way the agreement currently reads, each entity is responsible for kind of maintaining the fields and taking care of it based on their use. Well, the city's maintaining it, but if something breaks, the way it reads is, well, whatever party used it or broke it is responsible for fixing it. It becomes problematic. And so it really was rather unworkable, especially from the city's perspective, in that we're not using it anymore. So to the extent that we can, maintain it, and what you see in the MOU is fairly specific with regard to landscaping services, ball field maintenance, pest management, and annual reports. So certainly, I think work with our staff through district staff. There's a good relationship that we have, and our staff can certainly walk through, and there are certain things we can probably do. If it's larger, we may have to have more of a conversation. So really, this is designed to kind of be very clear in the services that the city is providing, and we know that there are times when the field needs to get mowed, and we're kind of making sure that we memorialize the expectation that we will be out there, as it says in that contract, provided it's not raining, of course. Okay.
Thanks for that comment.
Okay, the contract of maintaining the BMS fields until the time that expires. the BMS field that's closest to the street has so many problems. And kids get hurt. And I have always, we've had this conversation. So I'm concerned about, I think you mentioned like moles and gophers and all of that. Is that being taken care of? And how often is that being taken care of? So I can make sure that our students are safe up until the time that we dissolve this.
So, as noted, we have in there the pest management. The challenge is that, unlike our park system, there are greater restrictions and regulations on school sites for pest management. So that is certainly part of this agreement, that we will continue to have that integrated pest management. But there are limits on what can be provided to kill those creatures that are creating that problem. But you know, staff, district staff and city staff are working collaboratively to try to figure out how to do those fixes.
Can we at least fill the holes or something? I know there's a potential for those little guys to come back up.
Yes.
But I can just picture that. But is there anything that can be done in the meantime? Because I know there's more restrictions working with chemicals on a school site. I understand that. So that does make it a little bit harder. But
I can say that, and this is a great example of Chris, of the kind of relationship and partnership you're coming into. So, prior to, in fact, when Superintendent Wright shared with me his news that he was leaving, I was on the Benicia Middle School field, and he and I were walking it with our respective staffs for exactly that reason. And so I think it does speak to the partnership between the city and the school district. And again, not noted in this agreement is reference to keeping the pool open through 2030. And it's in there, but we haven't talked about it, right? And I'm up here, so I want to use this opportunity to talk about this, because to Superintendent Calabrese, it's important to know the community you're coming into. When Dr. Wright and I were walking the field, we had, for a 1-year period, the pool was closed because the city was going through very difficult budget times. And sadly, we will continue to go through budget times as we lose Valero. Nevertheless, I felt there was a community good to provide access to water, in particular for our high school students, in February and March. Because in the 1 year that you did not have the pool, it was very difficult to get it at Cunningham Pool in Vallejo. And the water you did get was 1 or 2 lanes at horrendous hours. That is not for the community good. We are in the industry between the school district and the city of providing service to our community. And so the reason why we are terminating an MOU or creating an MOU related to a middle school lease, and yet we're cobbling together something for the pool, was finding a vehicle to do those 2 goods. And that's why the pool is in here, right? It doesn't seem rather germane that we're talking about the middle school field, and yet the pool's in here for 5 years. Why? Well, because you had 2 individuals that figured out what's a vehicle to get to a common community good. And that's why we're using this instrument to do that. So we'll work with that with the staff, and it's challenging. I can just say that. I know it's challenging with those darn gopher holes, but it's something we can work on.
I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate the fact that you put that pool statement in the MOU. I hope it will be extended after that. At some point, that will be another discussion that you'll have with Mr. Calabrese.
And you may ask, how in the world can we commit to 5 years, especially in the light of the fact of Valero's departure, which will have a revenue hit to the city of $7.7 million on a $60 million budget. It's my hope that we will be able to put in a grant to the Air District, which has settlement funds from Valero, to support public health. And I think we can make a very good argument that providing water, not only for our high school students, but all of our students, for swim lessons, for lap swim, what have you, is in the interest of public health. And I'm very confident that we can probably get a grant for 5 years to continue that, and then hopefully figure out a way to keep it open in the 2030s.
Or maybe when you start building all the houses, the developer can put in a huge water facility, pool center, recreational. facility.
I don't want to deviate too far past the Brown Act,
I'm
but
not-
I
I'm
can
not-
envision, I
Yeah.
can plant the seed now that there would be a partnership between the school district, the city, and a developer on a new pool facility, which if I had to put a prediction on, that's how you're going to get new water in Benicia.
Thanks, Mario.
Thank you. Appreciate your being here. So we come to 13C. Oh, we have to vote, sorry. We need to vote.
I'll make a motion that we approve the MOU between the City of Benicia and BUSD to terminate the Benicia Middle School ground lease agreement.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed, thank you.
Now we come to 13C. What? Thank you, Mario. 13C, consideration and approval of the 24-25 unaudited actuals. Ms. Barrington, you are up.
We'll give Georgina a minute. All the way up. Thank you, Georgina. All right. Good evening, Board. I'm Superintendent Calabrese. Here for you tonight is for your review and adoption, the ending balances of the unaudited actuals for the 24-25 year. In our circular budget cycle, we are here in September, so the books close as of June 30th. It takes quite a while to close everything out, so the books close June 30th, the new year starts July 1st, and we have 2 years open at the same time, closing one out and starting the new year. So this is being brought forward to you as promised. And so tonight, we're going to take a look at the unaudited actuals, take a look at the financial overview of what occurred last year, and then what our next steps are. The unaudited actuals are as of June 30th, as I stated. They must follow certain generally accepted accounting principles. And the last bullet is really important, is that the district is ending the year with positive balances, and it was able to and continues to be able to meet all of its required reserve levels. So on our certification, we will certify as positive. Within the general fund, on the revenue side, this is a graphic as well as the figures of where we ended the year with. On the unrestricted side, just under $52 million came in, most of which is the local control funding formula, which is our funding that we receive from the state based on our students' attendance, that funds mostly everything, mostly people, our LCAP, and some other things. And then the remaining revenues are, there's some smaller amounts that come in from the state and then some local revenues that come in. On the restricted side, those are the items that have a specific purpose for which we can only use them. That's just under $11 million with a total revenue of $62.8 million. And you can see the breakdown, the graph is there to show you that really most of our revenue does come from the unrestricted local control funding formula to fund our school district. So this is to show you, you received, when you adopted the 25-26 budget, you also received an update of where we thought we would be at the end of 24-25, based on what we know best in late April, early May. And so as compared to our estimated actuals, to our unaudited actuals, and what that really means is the auditors haven't come in yet to say, yes, they agree with it. These numbers won't change unless there's some sort of finding that has to be taken into account in 25-26. But at estimated actuals, the LCFF was greater than what we actually ended the year with, and that had to do with revisions to our attendance for when our students actually attended. So and we're funded based on P2, which is in April. So we submitted our attendance reports, and then we had corrections done by our sites, which caused revisions to what we had to submit to the state. So we saw lower revenues by the end of the year. So our attendance actually kind of fell towards the end of the year, much closer to 94%. Okay. We would love to see it much greater, because then you see greater revenues do come in for the kids that are enrolled in our district. On the federal revenue side, the changes were on the restricted side, and we got just under $3,800 less on Title II. Title II supports one staff member that provides staff development within the district. The state revenues, lottery On the unrestricted and restriction, actually went up because lottery is based on how people actually play the lottery, and then districts receive that funding. But then there was a reduction in the CTIG dollars, and it's not that the CTIG dollars won't be received, we're just not allowed to recognize them as received until we spend them. So earlier on, it's an accounting thing. So earlier on in the year, the program said we're gonna do X, Y, and Z, so we show the revenue is there. The program didn't do it, so the revenue can't be shown on the balances, but we have it, and we'll use it in the current year. So BHS, CTIG department absolutely has a plan to use the dollars that we have been awarded. So we didn't lose any award, you just can't physically show them until they're used. They're not until they're earned, and they're not earned until you use them, even though we physically have them. So, confusing, but wonderful. And local revenue, I know. There's a number of things where that goes into play, where you can either show it and it falls out into what we call our fund balance, or you can't show it because you haven't earned it, even though you have it. So our cash looks different than our balance. So.
Can I just interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes.
If our student representatives would like to carry on somewhere else, you are welcome. You're welcome.
You will not offend me.
So leave. You never have to stay for the whole thing. Thank you so much for being here.
We'll see you on the flip side. The other area of change is on the local revenue. So the interest that we earn on our funds that sit within the County of Solano Treasury, the interest is actually greater than it has been ever in the past, and so it went up to 4.173%. So we saw additional earned revenues on the local side. That's where that changes. So overall, our revenues changed $81,000 all total. Okay. On the expenditure side, similar to what you saw in the revenues, here's a graphic of where our actual expenditures lie within salary and benefits, books, supplies, contracts, our utilities, both on the unrestricted and the restricted side, with our expenditures coming in at $65.3 million. So if you remember back, our revenues were less than that. They were $62.8 million. So if your expenditures are greater than your revenues, you were deficit spending. So we did deficit spend. We spent more during 24-25 than we brought in during 24-25. If you take a look at the graphic, what you will see is that a majority of our expenditures are tied up in the people that serve our students. On the unrestricted side, the budget is made up of 93.9% of salary and benefits. On the restricted side, it's made up of 77.2%. Total between both of them, 88.2% of our entire district budget is made up of people, their salary and their benefits. Total, but on the unrestricted side, really the place where everything has to pay for everything, it's 94%. On the restricted side, there are some one-time things in there, and then there are our routine restricted maintenance and our special ed, which has a contribution from the unrestricted. This just kind of highlights the differences. Where did we have differences? Again, from estimated actuals to how the year ended. In salary and benefits, we did have fewer expenditures, and that was truly only on the restricted side. They were greater on the unrestricted and lower on the restricted, and that really has a lot to do with our after-school childcare program and figuring it out. Director knew, CBO knew, and we could not reduce the budget without knowing how it's really gonna go. So our best information was the prior year. So we just assumed the same things were gonna happen. So we both know a lot more, and it will be much tighter. So we don't have a variance like that, but of course it was on the restricted side, so those dollars still stay within that restricted program. It was not on the unrestricted side. In books and supplies, $465,000 fell out on the restricted side. Again, those are things that the restricted programs believe they were gonna spend. but didn't spend. The dollars are still there in those isolated restricted programs. For services, what's called services and other outgo, which was really contracts, utilities, travel, debt payments, there was a fallout there. Some of that had to do with the restricted side. What we found in the business office was back in 23-24, we paid our solar debt payment twice. And we should have only paid it once. So they said, they kept holding it. And so this year, we paid our solar payment because it came due. And they said, we're going to give it back because you've already paid it twice in the year before and we don't know what to do with it. So that's why that expenditure didn't happen. You will not see that fallout again in 25-26 because we will have to make our solar payment. All it means is the district paid it early and got it credited in 25-26. But fortunately, we were able to work that out. And then we had some reduced software payments that were on the unrestricted side because the items were paid for with some one-time dollars. So last year, this graphic was added after Dr. Wright and I met, and this is Mr. Calabresi's second day, so this was still in here, but to highlight where the changes in how our budgets fell out at the end of the year. So just under 26% of the change comes from the unrestricted side, with a majority of the change of what falls out at the end coming from the restricted side. And on the unrestricted side, that amount is really upwards of almost 25% because of I was too conservative in the indirect projections that our programs on the restricted side are going to be charged. So programs we have the ability with our district approved rate to charge certain programs a percentage of their total cost to cover things that aren't directly attributed to that program, such as HR, business, superintendent, maintenance, facilities. Those kind of things are siloed elsewhere, but you can recover part of the cost that should be attributed to that program, but is all paid out of the unrestricted normally. So it offsets the unrestricted. So more dollars fell over into the unrestricted for the programs that did. And they're absolutely appropriate because if you're running these programs, there's absolute costs involved in having staffing, which is the majority of our budget, to offset the costs that are coming to hire and pay our staff. Any questions on the revenues and the expenditures? What came in, went out? Nope. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna go back. Sorry. That's too fast.
So if we have funds that are left over in our unrestricted and our restricted, do those funds have to continue to stay in that column?
Yes. You cannot move restricted to unrestricted.
Okay, thanks.
If it comes in as restricted, you get it because you're told you can spend it on X. And that's it. And it might take you 3 years to figure out how to spend it on X, but that's all you get to do. Yeah, but they stay siloed there. On the restricted side is certain grants that come in, as well as donations the district receives. Particularly our elementary schools do not have separate ASBs because they don't have that set up, and so they have donation accounts. Those are held separate and isolated and all tracked at the specific level. So they're never intermixed, intermingled. Okay. So our contributions for 24-25, these are items that are on the restricted side that require a contribution of funds from the unrestricted side because they do not have sufficient funding for the programs that are being run. Our largest one is our special education program. The special education program does not receive sufficient state funding, which is called AB 602, or federal funding, which is our IDEA programs. So there is a requirement to make those programs whole by contributing from the unrestricted side to the restricted side. The contribution did go up in 24-25. And just to note for you, because I know it gets brought up a lot, the special education portion of our budget is about 17% of our budget is what is needed to fund, overall, in total, to fund special education. Title I and Title II do not, we do not get sufficient funding for the items we do there, so they require our contribution. Our solar is something that the district entered into that requires a payment on the loan for the solar we put in, and so that's on the restricted side. So that comes out of the unrestricted side. It is actually paying the debt payment on the solar panels that we have. The Chromebook insurance was actually being held in the wrong place. It was being held in the unrestricted, but it can't be used for anything other than Chromebook insurance, what parents bought it for, so it was moved to the restricted side to isolate it. And then the last one, the routine restricted maintenance, that is a requirement that the district must contribute 3% of its total expenditures to the restricted side to maintain its facilities. So what did that do to our fund balance? Because I know that's what everybody wants to know. Where did we end up in the end? So we started the year where you can see on the unrestricted, restricted side, our revenues came in, expenditures went out. We contributed as necessary. The interfund contributions you see in that restricted, that $22,000, that's because we were moving ASB out of the wrong fund, which was Fund 08, into the right fund, which is Fund 01, because they're donations. That was a cleanup procedure we needed to do. The bank accounts were ended many years ago. The final process was never done, so we did it at the end of the year as to not disrupt anything at the elementary school sites, and then they started this year clean with it that way. So in the end, on the unrestricted side, we started at 9.8 million, and we ended our reserves at 8.9 million. You can see the detail below what that goes for. There are non-spendables. We have $10,000 in revolving cash that we must always keep in the event that we need it. And then there's a prepayment for a computer program that we're now in year 5 of, that was prepaid back in the COVID days, so every year you have to recognize it till you paid it off. And then there are the board commitments. Board policy is the 5% for salary and benefits. Books is our textbooks. And then the carryover accounts are on the unrestricted side, and that has to do with things that are tied to the minor amounts that may fall out that are attributable to the LCAP, or a designation for books, or some of our lottery funds that we use then for textbooks. The assignment where it says budget stabilization, that's the amount available to utilize in future years to maintain the multi-year projections. And then the 3% reserve for economic uncertainty, that's the required 3% that the reserve must be. So the reserves are greater than the 3%, so that we ended the year at 13.62% for the end of 24-25. Any questions on? That's 8.9 million in available reserves. Equates to 13.6, no, equates to a reserve of 13.62%. We are required to have 3 plus the board policy of 5, so we're required to have 8, and we ended at 13.62. Yep. Hey, the general fund, Fund 01 that we refer to, is not the only fund that the district has. We have many other funds that we're required to maintain. This highlights Fund 11, which is the adult education program. Fund 12, which is the child development, the state preschool program, and after school for the state preschool run part. And Fund 13, which is the food and nutrition program, all ended in the positive. There are spending plans for adult education. Their child development, Fund 12, part of that ending balance is the state has to go through and audit whether we spent our contract that we have or not, if we're allowed to earn what we did. So we hold on to it in the event that they want it back, and the state will ask for it back if they say that we did not spend in a manner that justifies the dollars we have. And then food and nutrition, we are allowed to have a 6-month reserve. You want to have a 6-month reserve in that program. If universal meals ended, that would be very important. Right now we have 7.5 months, but that is down from last year because Tanya Courtney is doing an excellent job in buying equipment and programs that bring in innovative food to our students. And so CDE approved the overage because we already have a spend down plan.
Shout
We-
to that team.
And we have a few more. We have Fund 21, which is the bond. So that's the small remaining balance of Measure C and the Measure S. We have developer fees, which is minor because we don't have expanding properties. But sometimes people expand their own current property. We just don't have new properties coming in. Fund 35 is the match dollars, the Prop 51 that Roxanne does an amazing job of applying for. So that balance you see there is what's going to the high school PAB. And the Special Reserve Fund 40 is where we set aside monies for the solar as well as the deferred maintenance. And it will come at some point. We have to replace the turf field at the high school. So this is where the district has committed to setting, through the board direction, set aside so that it's not a shock to the general fund when that has to happen. All right? So before I talk about our next steps, any questions on all those numbers? No? Okay. So the unaudited actuals were submitted to the county office this past Monday on September 15th. That is the deadline. They have till October 15th to submit it to the state. Once you take action on it tonight, the certification will be signed, and that'll complete the entire packet to SCO. Our audit firm, James Martin & Company, will come in the last week of September and audit the 24-25 year, and then they will present that audit to you after it's filed in December. It's presented to you sometime in January, or when we get on their calendar. I'll really try for January, but it'll be January or February. They come and they tell you about the audit. And then you have to accept the audit at that time, which you always do, which is great. So do you have any additional questions?
I just want to, thank you. It's, when you're looking at all of this, you explain it so well, but when you look at it as a person that doesn't deal with this kind of budget items all the time, it's like alphabet soup. It's like, okay, but the way you have it laid out and are explaining it, I so appreciate it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You're always so clear. So appreciate the clarity. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the 24-25 unaudited actuals.
I'll second. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, here we go. All those in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed, thank you.
Oh, and we come to Dr. Jennings. What? What?
We gotta put her at the top sometimes.
Really is okay.
Yes.
HR always goes last. I just took the best for last. So,
That's true.
good evening, President Grubbs, Board Trustees, Superintendent Calabrese, and the Benicia community. The item up for your consideration and approval is the Memorandum of Understanding with with the Benicia Teachers Association for Letters Training Stipend. As a reminder, LETTER stands for Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling, which is a nationally recognized research-based professional development program that is grounded in the science of reading. At a previous board meeting, the board approved an MOU that applied to our kindergarten to third grade teachers. This MOU is specific to our transitional kindergarten teachers who would engage in a one-year course of study as opposed to the 2-year that the prior MOU was. So the stipend's slightly different because it's a slightly less involved course because it's for transitional kindergarten.
Thank you. Any questions?
I
Excuse me.
move that we approve the MOU with BTA for the letters transitional kindergarten training stipend.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed, thank you.
And we come to the end of our meeting. Our next regular governing board meeting will be Thursday, October 2nd. And I would like to invite the community to come and meet our new superintendent on Tuesday, September 23rd. 3 to 5 for staff and city leaders, and 6 to 8 for community leaders. But really, you can come anytime except from between 5 and 6. Okay. And thank you.